RuneScape Dragon Wilds is about to change forever, and honestly, most players haven't even realized that yet. Update 0.12.1 is the official final stop before arriving on the 1.0 launch on September 15th, where we finally get to jump into Scorn Wilderness and take on the first raid ever to come to Dragon Wilds, which will put us up against the one and only Kuldra, the God Eater herself. And this finally clears up something that players have been wondering for quite some time, and that is basically, how do we go from the game we currently have and have played right now to the full release of the game. At the end of this month, 0.12.1 will officially make its debut here to the game, and with it is coming with a slew of stuff. The first one being the agility tree finally being introduced here to Dragon Wilds. If you don't know, this was actually set to debut with the Umbral Sands update and then was obviously delayed and pushed back. Well, now we can expect it here in just a couple of weeks. Alongside that, here for the 0.12.1, we're also going to be getting a full combat rework for the game. And when I say a full rework, I mean there is a ton of stuff here that is on the table for rework when it relates to combat. Everything from additional parrying mechanics, making parrying easier, making it more satisfying, and giving you more of a reward for successfully parrying an enemy. We're talking brand new weapon types being added in, like the wand. It's going to be hitting a little bit lighter than a staff does, but it's going to be firing a lot faster and quicker when it comes to mobility. Speaking of mobility, we're getting a ton of mobility movements and changes to movement in general and how the game feels when in combat and out of combat. We're also getting the ability to upgrade masterwork items. If you don't know what that is, there's basically like unique masterwork items throughout the world that you can find and discover. You can't upgrade them at the current point of the game, but you will be able to when 0.12.1 comes out. And last but certainly not least, a ton of quality of life stuff that players have been asking for, some of these things, since the game dropped into early access. And then after 0.12.1 officially debuts, the next stop is going to be on September 15th when the game officially drops into its 1.0 launch from early access, and we get to dive into the game's first raid in Scorn Wilderness to take on Kuldra herself. And I'll be honest with you here, up until reading this blog post, I 1000% thought that the 0.12.1 update was just going to be simply based around combat, some minor, changes here and there. They're going to be adding the agility tree, which again is really awesome, and maybe some just simple quality of life stuff, right? Just basic improvements. But after reading everything the developers had to say here, I actually think that this update exists for one reason, and that is simply to prepare us here for Scorn Wilderness. Think about it for a second. The developer stated in this dev blog post that this is the game's first true raid here for Dragon Wilds. We have yet to see anything as hard as this in-game challenge. Secondly, here they talked about it's going to be the most vertical map that they've ever built here for the game. It's going to be featuring floating islands, constant pressure, and a ton of combat encounters. And this honestly suddenly explains why we're getting the agility tree here for 0.12.1 prior to the Scorn Wilderness update dropping with 1.0 in September. It also explains why the combat is getting completely overhauled, why the movement as well is also getting completely reworked, and honestly, they're not just simply polishing or trying to polish the game, they're literally prepping us for the hardest content here to come to RuneScape Dragon Wilds. And this was another huge point that they had. Every major update we've received so far, whether it was Fell Hollow, Daldun Reach, Umbral Sands, they've basically all been built the exact same way, right? It introduced a brand new biome, new resources, new quests, some side missions, new gear tiers, a brand new boss for that region, basically explore at your own pace. But Scorn Wilderness is not any of that. Developers made it very clear here that Scorn Wilderness is going to be a raid. And if you're not exactly sure what the term raid means or what exactly you can expect, whether it's from old school RuneScape or World of Warcraft or any other game that features the term raid loosely here, basically what you need to know is that it's not going to be a full exploring, new open region. Instead, it's actually going to be more of a in-game dungeon that is designed to make you utilize everything that you have learned inside of the game all the way up to this point. So we're talking, you know, combat mechanics, movement mechanics, survival mechanics, you've got preparation, you've got progression mechanics. Basically, everything you've been doing up until this point is gonna be tested to its maximum potential, and you're gonna have to be on your toes to meet the mark to potentially kill Kuldra herself. And next here, this honestly might be the biggest announcement in this blog post. Dragon Wilds is not ending after killing Kuldra. The developers literally said here, our journey is only beginning. And this is huge because it answers one question that I've seen asked constantly since the game dropped into early access, and that is what happens after the 1.0 launch. Well, now we officially know the version 1.0 is not the finish line for the developers. It's honestly just going to be the start of the next chapter. And personally, I love to hear this because as a player who enjoys Dragon Wilds and everything they've cooked up so far, if you were like myself, this basically means that September is not the end-all be-all when it comes to Dragon Wilds. It's just going to be ending the Kuldra saga, and we're going to be moving in to whatever is next on the board, basically setting the foundation here as the early access content, and then we're going to be getting a plethora of new content here on the horizon. Additionally, in the dev blog, they gave us some teasers here related to what we can expect for rewards for the Kuldra raid: ancestral robes, black dragon hide gear, rune armor, the latest version of the dragon shield, an exclusive cape for your victory, and a selection of the iconic pieces for the dragon armor, things like glorious, resplendent, and red, including the dragon scimitar and the dragon crossbow. There's going to be some additional goodies as well on the loot drop table here for completing Kuldra. However, though, they're going to be specific to RNG. You're not going to know what they are and which or what is going to drop at the time of killing her, so repeating her over and over again is going to be advised. And unfortunately, Jagex is going to save that special information until you yourself get out there and beat her over and over again. And boy, am I excited here for the random loot table for killing Kuldra herself. I honestly wish, and I've been saying since day one here of early access, that they would add more random drops to a variety of things in the game, whether it's going to be the mini bosses like the Abyssal Demon, or even things like the bigger bosses of the regions. In general, I feel like that's one of the things that Dragon Wilds has been lacking the entire time, and that is the replayability factor, right? Once you complete each region, there's not really much reason to go back to play them. Well, now adding this random drop, chance, or this random loot table here to a boss like Kuldra is really nice for replayability for Kuldra herself. However, I would love to see added into the quality of life stuff, them go back and also add these random drops or random things to each individual boss for each region to give us a reason to go back to those zones. I don't know, man. That's just my personal opinion on the matter. Nevertheless, I am very excited for all the combat changes and mobility changes and the agility tree that we can expect here with 0.12.1. Again, remember, this is expected at the end here of this month, only a couple of weeks away. Let me know down below in the comments what thing you are most excited about. And while you're down there, don't forget to like the video and subscribe here on the channel for more RuneScape Dragon Wilds content. And with that being said, as always, guys, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you all on the next one.